Beveling harvest.
Welcome back to the arcade, and today, yes today, we're going to start on part number 4 of the Star Wars cabinet repair. And I figured we'd go ahead and start off with where we left off from the last video. And we had put glue in this piece of plywood, the backing part where the wheels are attached to the cabinet. So let's go ahead. It's been drying for a while now, so I haven't had a chance to get back out here. So let's see how this turned out. And let's zoom in here. And yeah, that looks good and solid. Probably just have to take the sander and smooth up this edge right here a little bit, but yeah, that's good and solid. So with that done, now we finally get to go out to the garage, get out the table saw, and we're going to start cutting some new wood so that we can replace the bottom of this cabinet with some brand new wood. Okay, well, we're finally outside where we can start cutting this new bottom for the cabinet. Here's the piece of plywood that was on the bottom of the cabinet. I've taken my sander and just sanded the edges smooth, get any rough burrs off of it. And then I've taken my square here and I've just put on the corners to make sure that this old bottom is perfectly square, and I've checked it on all 4 corners and it's perfectly square. So with that said, we'll be able to use this as a template on the saw to cut a perfect exact replica of this. But what we're going to do first is, since I have a 4x2 sheet of 3/4 inch plywood, it's a little bit wider than we need, and of course longer than we need, but we're going to use some of this right here to make the side blocks that staple onto the side of the cabinet. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to line it up on the end here, and I'm just going to make a cut across here, and it's not the final cut. I'm going to leave a little bit of material on here and just make this piece a little bit smaller so that when we take it over to the saw, it's a lot easier to handle than the full piece. So what I'm going to do here is just put the square on here. I'm just going to make a general cut line. So now we can take it over to the saw and cut it off. Okay, well, I got the saw all set up. I set my ripping fence so that the distance between it and the blade is the distance that I need to rough cut this off. And I also checked the new piece of plywood here with my square to make sure that the corners were square. So that's important to check too. And they were square, so that way I'm working with a square corner here. All right, so all I gotta do is just line it up with my fence and turn my saw on and cut it. Okay, rough cut is done. Okay, now we're going to set the saw up again to make a rip. This is the original bottom of the cabinet, and we're going to have to cut the board to the width of the cabinet first. This is the front side, and this is the back side of the cabinet, and this is the sides. So we need to get our new board the same exact width as this. So the way we can do this, I like to crank the blade up as high as I can get it. And this just gives us a good surface to put this against. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this about middle way and put it up against the blade. So I know that I got my cut on this side. It's going to be a nice straight cut with the original piece. Now I have my fence over here set up, and it's 90 degrees to the blade. I've already set that up. And this saw, you can slide it in and just slide the fence right up against it, just like that, and lock it in place. Okay, now the fence isn't going to move. Now you can see you can't slide it back because of this safety feature right here. So you have to pull this up to slide it back. But as you can see, it slides easily, and this should give us the cut we need for the width of the bottom. So with that set up, I'm going to lower my blade back down, because when you're cutting any kind of wood, you don't want the blade to be but just a little bit above the wood you're cutting, because it can cause kickbacks. Alright, now we're going to take the piece that we just cut, and I've already checked this to make sure that this corner is 90 degrees. So this corner is 90 degrees to this side. So what I want to do, let's see here. Yeah, this is the front and the back, and this is the sides. So I want to keep my 90-degree corner against the fence. And I'm going to have to set my blade, make sure I got that the right height. That looks good. So now all I have to do is just keep it straight on the fence, and she should cut our side over here. So always wait till your saw stops before you get anywhere near the blade. And got a nice little strip we can save. Don't know what we might need it for one day. Okay, now we should have a piece of wood that is identical to the width of the original piece. Yep, and that feels perfect. Okay. Next thing we're going to have to do is basically do the same thing, only we have to cut the back edge, because the back edge has that bevel on it. So we're going to set this aside for a second. And again, we're going to take our original piece and hope you can see this right here. This is the side that's got the bevel on it. I sanded the glue off the bevel, so the bevel should be identical to what we're going to use here. And I'm hoping the fence is going to be long enough, and it is. That's great. Okay, so this end is flat. This is the front side of the cabinet. This is the back side next to the wheels. This has got the bevel. When you're cutting a bevel on a table saw, you should always cut the bevel in this position so that the blade is going to be leaning away from your work. So, again, going to raise the blade up. And this is kind of when I wish I didn't have these on here, but I'm going to have to deal with them. Again, we're going to push this up against the blade. And what we're going to do is set our angle. So we're going to rotate the blade and bring our fence in. Until we get the correct angle on this. A little bit more. I think that looks perfect. Actually, that's 45 degrees. That's the that's how far the blade will tilt, and that's perfect. So again, got this about in the middle, got the blade up in the air, have the blade lined up with the 45-degree bevel, and tighten down our fence. So now when we run our new piece through, it's going to cut this 45-degree bevel, and it's going to be the exact same size as the original piece. So, one thing I gotta do now is lower the blade. I don't know if that's going to change the dynamics of it or not, but let's find out. No, it looks identical. So we'll be able to run the new piece right straight on through. Okay, well, let's give it a try. We'll take this original piece, set it to the side. And this is our 90-degree corner. And this is going to be the back. This is where we made that first initial cut. All we have to do now is keep it tight on the fence. And let's go ahead and make our 45-degree bevel cut. Okay. Now we should have our bottom piece complete. And it should line up perfectly with the old one. I have to flip it over this way. Let's see. Yeah, flip it over this way. That way the bevel is going to be together on that line, so we can check it. And that looks absolutely perfect all the way around. So the bottom is all finished. All right. Well, now we're going to have to create these side blocks that we're going to glue and staple onto the bottom that we just cut. Now this has two parts. It's got a piece of plywood here, the big part, and it's 3/4 inch plywood, the same as the bottom, and I believe it's 2 inches wide. So we're going to have to rip some more plywood for this piece here. The 3/4 inch blocking, I already have 3/4 inch blocking. I'm just going to have to measure it and cut two pieces to length, to the same length as this. So first thing we need to do is to put our blade back up 90 degrees. And let's raise it up. And that should be 90 degrees, but we're going to check it with a square. You always want to, whenever you change settings on your saw, you always want to recheck to make sure that the blade is set at the angle you want. And right now we want a 90-degree cut. So we take a square, put it on the table, and it should line up with the blade, which it does. It's perfect 90 degrees. All right. So now what we need to do is set the fence over here so that we're going to rip a 2-inch piece. Now, I can't use this as a template because I can't talk tonight because of all this tear out from the bottom. So we're just going to go by measurements here, and our fence gives us a measurement, and actually we're not going to need the extension, so I'm going to lock that in place. And I've never used a gauge here, but I'm going to set it on 2 inches. And this one, you have to set the back. So what I need to do is make sure that I get 2 inches on the front and the back. And the back is not sitting down in the slot. Okay. Let me do this again. I haven't checked this to see how accurate it is, so we're going to check it right now. It has a gauge on here, but I don't know how accurate it is. It's supposed to be accurate, but we're going to find out here. And we'll just take a quick measurement right here, and from the fence to the inside of the blade, that's right on 2 inches. So now Let me check it with the, since I can't get to the blade because of the knife. I'm just going to line it up with the blade. And that should be 2 inches there. It's a little short piece right here. Yeah, that's 2 inches. Okay, so we should be good to go. Let me check it one more time. That's exactly 2 inches there. Nope, that's not 2 inches there. It's not right. Okay, that's 2 inches. That's 2 inches. That looks like more than 2 inches. Okay, well, you know, that's close enough. Doesn't have to be perfect, but that looks like 2 inches. Okay, now we're going to get our piece of wood that we're going to cut. Adjust my blade back down. Alright. Now, this got a few knots in it over here, so I'm gonna cut it on this side right here. Yeah, okay, ready to cut it. Okay, where did I put that piece of wood? Just compare it. Yeah, that should be good. All right, let's cut another piece. All right, I'm gonna set my square on 2 inches. perfect. Square that way, square that way. And this one too is perfect. Okay, now what we're going to have to do is cut it to length. Because as you can see, this piece is just a little bit too long. Now I could leave it a little bit longer and split the difference. That would probably give it a little more strength, but now I think I'm just going to leave it original. So let's take a measurement here. And these are 22 and 5/16. Let me see what the other one is. Okay, 22 and 5/16 it is. So we'll go down here and we'll mark this. Two, 1, 2, 5/16. Okay, we'll mark one of them and we just use the one we cut to go live to make the second one. Clear all this off. All right, we're not going to need the fence, so I'm going to remove the fence. And I'm going to get my miter gauge. My miter gauge on here. Now this is a brand new saw, and I had to do a little setting up to make sure everything was right. The miter gauge didn't come with this fence on it, so I had to drill some holes in here and mount this fence. And what I did, it's got two tracks. You can either cut from this side or this side, and I raised the blade up, and as you can see right here, I got a mark right here. Well, the blade, that's where the cut is. So easy way to line this up, you put it on here and you just put your mark where you want to cut and line it up with the saw cut that's on the fence right here, and you get a perfect cut every time. So it's still set up to cut this wood here, so let me line it right up here and let's make a cut. The nice thing about this fence is when you're cutting this piece that overlaps on the other side of the blade pushes your cutoff piece out of the way of the blade so it won't kick back. Okay, so now we got a piece here. Now we got our other piece that we need to cut. So all I'm going to do is line it up here. And Use the top one to line up the notch right there. And okay, now we got our 2 pieces of blocking done. Now, find out where I'll put my, there it is over there on the tailgate of the truck. Here's our 3/8 blocking. So we need to create 2 of these. So again, what I'll do is I'll just lay it on here, and I can just take my pencil and mark it, and that's where I want to cut it. So we need 2 of those. So same thing. Just line that up. And I'm just going to lay this on here and mark it. Same thing, line it up with my saw mark. And that's it. That completes all the wood we need to cut to put the bottom together. So getting kind of late now, and I have my staple gun and everything inside the game room. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the assembly in the game room since everything is already in there. So now I got to clean up, put my table saw away, and when we come back, we'll assemble that bottom section. Okay, well, we're back in the game room. We've got all the pieces of wood cut to make the new bottom for the cabinet. I figured I'd work inside here because I already had my air gun in here, staple gun. So what I did was I just took a piece of particle board that I had and laid it on top of the cabinet, and we're going to use that as a workbench. So got the old bottom here, and I just went ahead and set these pieces back up on here and lined them up where they originally were so I could get the measurements to transfer them over to the new piece here. And there was a little discrepancy here. As you can see, this piece here has a lot more hangover than the one on the other side here. So evidently when they put this cabinet together, the measurements weren't that critical. They were just probably slapping these pieces in here and nailing them with the nail gun. So what I did was I went ahead and chose to go with this one right here, and I made both of mine come out equal. And so anyway, I've gone ahead and measured everything out, got everything where it goes, scribed lines on here so I know how to line everything up. And I've even put little dots here where I want to put the staples. And on the side blocking right here, I took the original ones and I marked where the original screw holes went in the cabinet and where the original staples went in. I did that because when I put the new one back in, I don't want to put a screw or a staple in the exact same place where it originally had one, because if you were to get that a new screw halfway in an old screw hole, then you run the risk of stripping that out and it won't hold good. So I wanted to make sure that I had everything going into wood that hadn't been compromised. So I've already drilled the holes where I want the new screws to go, and everywhere I got an X is where the old staples were. So I want to make sure I don't put a staple close to where the old ones were. I'll split it and put it in between. Okay. Also, I got the 3/8 blocking for the front side of the cabinet. This is to decide where the kick plate screws to. Screws actually go in from the inside into the kick plate. Originally, it had a screw in the middle and one on either side. I wanted to avoid going in the original holes, so right here is the center. So I went ahead and I'm going to put 2 screws off from the center and 1 screw down near the end and another screw down the other end. So I'll have a total of 4 screws instead of 3 in that particular spot. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to start with this right here. I got this all measured out and lined up. I'm going to put it in place, and then we're going to glue it and then take and staple all the way down. And in order to get this perfectly lined up with the edge, I've just taken this block and put here, and then we can put this up against it, line it up, and that'll give me that straight edge that I need. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's get started. First thing I need to do, put some glue down, and we're going to glue this 3/8 block into the front of the bottom of the cabinet. And like I said, we'll take this piece of wood, put it up against the front edge of the bottom piece, and then we'll just set this on here, and it'll back up against that and give us the position that we need to get that lined up. Now, get my staple gun. And make sure we got it in the right place. And let's put a staple. Start in the middle. Okay, that looks good. And we'll just run our staples right on down the line. And go right on back the other way. Okay, first piece done. Now, let me get a paper towel here because I want to wipe away the excess glue. First, I wipe off the glue from my piece here that I was using to line it up. just wipe the glue off the front edge here. Okay, that looks good. Okay, next thing we got to do is we got to staple these pieces onto these side pieces here. So we're going to have to lay this down, put glue on it, and line it up and shoot our staples in through here. So in order to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and set this aside. And I'll start with this one here. And we're going to do the same thing. We'll put our board back down, and we'll put this board up against that, and then we'll be able to put this board up against here, and that'll make sure that this is lined up with the bottom edge. So get some wood glue on here. Make sure we got it in place there. Put one to start it. Make sure it's still lined up, which it is. And we'll just staple these down. Okay, same thing. Like I glue down there. And wipe our glue off the bottom. And we can set that aside. And let's do this other one. Make sure I got it lined up. That's the way it's going to go. Some more glue. Let's see. Yeah. Just making sure I'm putting it in the right place there. Alright, make sure that's up tight against that wood. Put that up tight against the wood. Make sure it's lined up. Alright. Okay, looks lined up. Okay, same deal. We want to wipe our excess glue off. All right, now we have both of these finished. Now we can go ahead and bring our bottom back up here. And turn this around this way here. Bit of excess glue, I'll just wipe this off too. Okay. Now, this is the front. So that's the high voltage side. That goes there. And this one goes over here. Okay, kind of the same deal here, but we're going to have to staple this from the bottom. But to line it up and hold it in place, we're going to shoot staples down this 3/4 blocking here, and that's going to hold it in place. We'll do that on both sides. Then we can flip it upside down, and then we can shoot the staples in to the bottom, and that will complete this. But since I got to put glue on both of them before I can turn it over and staple the bottom, pretty sure I'm about to run out of staples. So let me go get some more staples, because I don't want to run out of staples while I'm doing this. Okay, let's do this. I put a new stack of staples in the gun. I got plenty of staples. I had to buy a box that had 5,000 staples in it. So I got a lifetime supply of staples. Okay, we're going to do the same thing that we did for that. I'm going to put this block of wood right here. And that's going to give me the straight edge to back this up to. So we'll go ahead and that will line it up to the edge. And we'll put the glue on it, and then we'll be able to staple this down. Then we'll do the other side, then we can flip it over, and then we can put our staples in from the bottom. So, but we're going to have to put the glue on everything right now. So, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, run a bead for the 3/4 blocking, and then run a bead for the 3/4 plywood. Okay, put this line up piece here, and then line it up with my marks. This is going to be a little tricky. I'm going to have to come in kind of on an angle here. Alright. Want to double check and make sure this is lined up. Okay. Wipe the glue off of this. Now I'm going to spin this around and get the other side. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Put the glue on. Okay. Line it up. Uh-oh. Trying to get that hose up. I shifted it a little bit. I mean, it's not super critical, but since I put the lines on there, it's critical that we keep it flush with the edge of the cabinet. Alright. Got one in. Check to make sure it's straight, and it looks straight. Okay. That looks good. Get my glue off. And here's the part that's going to count. We've got to flip it over. And now we got to put the staples in all the way down this blocking here. And I'm just going to take and feel it here. And it's make sure it's flat. And it is. Feels nice and flat. Got that edge good and flat. So now we can go ahead and staple this. So I'll go ahead and staple this side first. And since this is the end where we only stapled it with the 3/4 blocking about this much right here, so we don't have any staples in here yet. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to put one down here first. Okay. And there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just going to go down every so many what looks like bright. Okay. That squeezed the glue out. So I'm going to wipe the excess glue off. Now turn it around and we'll get the other side. Got some glue on my board here. Okay, same thing. 3/4 blocking is the only thing holding it on right now, so it'll stand on this end. So I want to make sure this end right here is straight, and it is. It feels good all the way down. Okay. Wipe off the excess glue. Now I can clean off this excess glue where it dripped, because I don't want to glue it to the bottom of the particle board here. And there we have it. I'm just going to go ahead and just wipe the glue a little bit here. Okay, and that completes the bottom here. Now, I've also drew out where the power assembly goes. I changed it a little bit because they had it a little crooked, so I just straightened it up, but it's basically in the same position. So I just went ahead and put the plate down here and drew it out and put where the holes are. So when we get ready to reassemble this, we'll be able to go ahead and put that in its place. Okay, so let's see what we got to do next. Okay, now that we got the cabinet bottom assembly all ready to install, we have to get the cabinet sides itself ready. If you remember, if you watched the earlier episodes, one of the screws, the original screws that holds the bottom blocking in, had rung off, and I imagine it rang off because the cabinet at one point had been dropped, and that screw had broke off. But anyway, we're just going to take a pair of regular vice grips and we're going to clamp onto it. And hopefully back the screw right out. All right, so the one broken off screw has been removed. Next thing we're going to have to do is where the screws and the staples went in, it's left the side here kind of rough. So, and also to make the glue stick, because we're going to glue this as well as put screws and staples in here, I'm going to go ahead and sand it smooth and rough it up so that the glue can adhere to it real good. So I just got some sandpaper here on a sanding block. This is 150 grit, and just gonna go ahead and sand this. Here's a nail where they originally put in the bottom, and they missed the bottom completely, and it went in through the side right here. So let's get that out the way too. All right, there we go. So that just goes to show you, they were probably putting these cabinets together as fast as they could back in the day, and nails and staples and glue was flying, I imagine. Okay, no biggie. I could use a power sander on this, but I think I can do it with just a sanding block, since we're not going to have to go too heavy with this. After all, we just want to create a nice smooth surface for the plywood to glue to. I got a little more right there. I might have to get the power sander out. That's glue residue right there, and I can feel it pretty good. So I'm gonna have to get all that off. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring in the power sander. Okay, got my sander. So let's go ahead. I got 150 grit paper on here, and hopefully that'll do it. Okay. That looks pretty smooth. Went down to the wood in a couple places there, but that's okay. That'll mean that the glue will soak into the wood itself and create a little bit of a better bond, rather than that. Like I say, I don't know if that's vinyl or what that is, the black material on these cabinets. But it's very tight onto the wood, so I'm sure it's probably some type of put on there under pressure. So, and like I say, that's what they originally did anyway. So, okay, now we got the side smooth again. So now we can take our new bottom assembly that we just finished making, and let's do a test fit, and let's see how this lines up. Okay, what I need to do now is put a clamp about middle way so that I can give it a little friction to center it in position, since the sides are spread out a little bit. And I want just enough to where it's going to hold itself. what I got to do is I get the bottom flat all the way around. More pressure on it. This keeps jumping on me. Okay, now this is what is critical. I have to make sure I line up this top edge so that it's flat. So that when I put the face plate on, or the kick plate, it's going to line up evenly. The 3/4 blocking on the front is going to line up with the 3/4 blockings on the side. That's what you have to line up to make sure you get it kind of critical. And what I found out was down here on the bottom, because this was cut on a 45-degree angle, it always had a crack in here. Had a crack on this bottom. You could even see where they'd put the glue on there, and the glue had never stuck the wood together because it was a gap. Now, I could have made this cut and made it a little bit longer, but I went ahead and made the cut just like the original bottom. So I'm going to show you what I did to fix it. And right now, it looks pretty flat. And I believe that's going to do it. What I had to do, I had to create a shim down here to raise this up so that it would sit at the right level. And I just guessed at the thickness of that shim just by judging the gap that was in the original, and it seems to be pretty doggone close. And I believe we can go with this. So, let me show you what I did. Let's take this back off. And let me get the camera loose and so I can show you. Okay, because this piece right here is cut on a 45-degree angle, and it matches up to this flat of this panel right here. The back edge is cut on a 45-degree angle, so when you put it together, it's flat if you're looking at the bottom. Okay, well, there was a gap between this and that bottom 45-degree angle cut. So what I did was I took a Home Depot yardstick right here, and I cut it to fit in between the gap, and then I notched the ends out so that when I put it in here, now that is going to take up the space for that shim right there. So all I'm going to have to do is glue this in, and because it's got a piece under here which extends this, I can actually throw in a couple staples just to hold it right in this midsection if I want to. So that's going to work out fine. So now all we got to do is go ahead and glue this thing up, put it in place, clamp it down, and put the screws in, and then the staples. Okay, well, I think I'm ready to do this, so might as well just go ahead and do it. First thing I'm going to do is this shim that I created down here. I'm going to go ahead and glue that on the bottom first. So I'm going to run a bead of glue. And just for good measure, I'm going to run another little bead that'll squeeze out on the bottom of the shim. And we'll just put that right in place. Wipe off the excess glue. And it's not going anywhere, but just because I can, I'm going to put a staple in it right here. And that did poke out there a little bit. I should have nailed it down a little more of an angle. Alright, that poked out too, so I could have swore I had enough room there. Alright, that one's okay. Alright, well, that's just a minor thing. Okay, I know I've already test fit this thing, but I'm going to feel better about it before I glue it down and try to glue it. I want to test fit it one more time, just to be on the safe side. Because once you put the glue on here, you really don't have any other recourse. So I'm going to put this one clamp on it here. Give it a little tension. Okay, it is sitting up a little bit higher. Okay, well, that was what I was afraid of. In order to get it to go down to line up here, it's going to have to slide forward a little bit on this 45-degree angle. So what I'm going to need to do is take and sand this down because it's just a hair bit too thick. So that's what I wanted to do, because I was thinking that maybe that might make it a little bit too thick. So let's take sander and sand it down a little bit. Let's see if that changes it. Okay, that did it. That's perfect. It's flat and even with the bottom of the cabinet. I think it went back just a little bit there. And again, what I'm looking for is this right here has to be the same level as the blocking on the side here so that the front kick plate will set flush along here. And yeah, I'm kind of liking that. I believe that's going to do it. Okay, so when I do the final adjustment, I'll put 2 clamps on it. That way I'll be able to clamp it down tighter near the bottom and tighter near the top, so it won't keep rocking on me. Okay, well, I guess this is it. I need to glue it down good, get it lined up, and then throw some screws and staples in it. So what I want to do is give me more room. I'm going to slide this back, just give me more room up here, because I'm going to have to get down in here to actually put the screws and the staples in. So yeah, okay. Okay. Now this is going to be a little tricky to try to keep this glue from going everywhere. And to do it, I don't really need that much. So I'm going to get out a paintbrush to help me. So I'll just squirt this on and then be able to use the paintbrush. So I'll start down here. This is the part that always gets me nervous, because if you screw up something, you got a mess. But it's something that has to be done, and there's only one way to do it, and that's just to do it. And of course, like always, I probably got too much glue. Alright. Now I'm going to need some glue, not much, but a little bit on these sides. And I did put down a drop cloth down there to catch all this excess glue that I'm sure is going to be dripping. Yeah, I'm making a mess. Okay. That should be plenty. But I'm not going to put glue on that bottom edge, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run a bead, another bead down here on top of this, which should soak that pretty good. Okay, here we go. Do or die. Okay. Okay, now all we have to do, hopefully, is tap it in place. The glue is making it slippery, so it's a little bit harder to get it to stay in position. Alright, let's see how we're lining up here. Close. So it's got to come up some. close. All right, I'm gonna call that done. All right, got very much tension on this now. I think before I try to put the screws in, I'm gonna put 4 staples in. So let me see if I can move the camera around real fast and get you a shot from the other side. Okay, well, I'm gonna check it one more time here. Looks good up the top. Looks good at the bottom. And it looks good right there where that lines up on the front. Okay. So I think we're ready to do this. Get my staple gun here. And like I say, first I'm gonna put a staple in near the top here. Alright. That looks good. Bottom still looks good. Alright, let's see if I can get one near the bottom. Okay, that's 4 staples. That should hold it in place. Now I'm going to put the screws in. And let me find my power screwdriver here. And I'll start by putting this top one in right here. I don't need this long extension. All right. Okay, one in. Two in, that's what I want to see. I want to see the glue squeeze out. That's a good sign. One on this side. Okay. All right. Get all these in, and then I'll come back and see if I can tighten them a little more by hand. Oh yeah. Like to see that glue squeeze out. Got glue coming out this screw hole. Alright, am I going to be able to get them bottom ones? I'm a short person. Let's see what I can do here. Put this table down here. That'll raise me up a couple inches. Every little bit helps. Oh, that'll do it. Whoops. Not. Do it this way. Get on there. Dang it. All right. Get the one on the other side and I'll come back to that. Wondering if that bit is starting to get wore down a little bit. Just not getting it straight. You have to keep it straight or it will wobble out the hole. Okay. Whew. Now let me see if I can get them any tighter. Of course, I don't want to over tighten them because you run the risk of stripping the wood out because it's nothing but 32-year-old or whatever particle board. Okay, that got them a little tighter. Now we'll finish up the staples. And try to put these in places where they wasn't before. Uh-oh. Everything in my pocket just dumped out into the bottom of the cabinet. Okay, don't want to overdo it. That should be plenty. All right. I get a paper towel and wipe some of this glue. It did squeeze some glue out here. Quite a bit on this T-molding, but I think I'm going to have to replace the T-molding anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. And it don't look too bad along the side there, so I'm going to leave it be. Okay, well, that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to let this stay clamped and let it dry for at least 24 hours. Before we do anything else to it. So in the meantime, I'll figure out what the next step is. I don't know if we're going to go ahead and put the leg levelers on for the wheels. I don't think I'm going to put the front kick plate on until I stand it back up, because I'm going to have to, it'll be easier to put on with it standing up, because right now I don't even have access to it. If I put it on, I got to put the screws in from the back side, and the only access right now is through the coin door opening, which I can get some of them that way, but more than likely I'm going to have to come in through the back side of the cabinet to get some of them. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But it's looking good so far, so we'll be back with something different to do as soon as I figure it out. Okay, I figured one last look here at the bottom. Sometimes you just have to sit back and admire your work. And looking this over right here, I'll admit it looks pretty good. A coin of phrase from John on John's Arcade. It looks legit. So yeah, got it all lined up pretty good. So yeah, once it dries, we'll be in business. Well, once again, it's been 24 hours. I've taken the clamps off the bottom, and the bottom is all glued and it's nice and solid. So I've been thinking about what to do next, and I have some issues I need to Bondo, like up in the corners, little pieces in the corners, and especially down on the bottom corners. So I thought I would just wait and do that all in one video, dealing with Bondo, since I've never done a Bondo video. So what I decided to do is we're going to go ahead and install the mounting plates for the leg levelers. And I like to use these heavy duty plates here. They're nice, big, and spread an equal load on the bottom wood, unlike the little T-nuts that Atari usually uses in the cabinets, where they just drill a little, like a 1/4 inch hole or maybe it's a little bit bigger, and just hammer that T-nut in and put a couple staples in it. And that might be okay for a standard leg leveler, but I'm going to use wheels on this. And when you're using a wheel, the wheel is offset because it's a swivel wheel. So the wheel sits to the side of the hole, and when you put the weight of the cabinet on it, the wheel is like a lever, and it actually puts pressure on this. So it'll have a tendency, whichever way that wheel is slung around, it'll have a tendency to put pressure on it. So that's why we need a good big leg leveler plate like this. I used to get these at Bob Roberts. He used to sell them as a kit, which would come with bolts, lock washers, and nuts. And I used those for a while, but now since Bob is missing in action and we don't know if he's going to be coming back or not, I actually got these. I can't remember exactly who they were from, but I got them on eBay. One of the arcade suppliers on eBay. So, and they're the exact same ones Bob used to sell. Instead of using bolts and nuts, which is great, you know, and I used to also use big washers to put on the back side, but they're kind of a pain, because especially when you do them down on the bottom side of the cabinet, it's hard to get down in there and hold the wrench on them while you're outside here tightening up the other end. So I started using these lag bolts, and these are like giant screws with a hex head on them, and they use them in construction a lot to screw hangers into the side of a building, like if you're going to put a deck on the side of a house or whatever. You can use this on the board that they put on the base of the house, that the whole structure is relied on to hold that deck onto the house. So these are very, they work very well. So we're going to use these. These are 5/16 by 1.5 inches, and they fit the holes real nice here. They might be a little overkill, especially if you're only going through 3/4 inch plywood like we're going to be doing here, but up here on this top edge, at least one of them here, and I believe, no, this one won't be, but the one down here and the one up here will be going through 1.5 inches of material, because you got the 3/4 inch plywood and the 3/4 inch blocking here. So actually, if you put it through there, it actually comes right to the edge there. So it'll work. A couple places it's going to stick out inside the cabinet in the bottom, but I'm fine with that. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to line it up here, and I'm just going to put it right on the corner edge here. And because of the spacing of these holes, this hole right here will be lined up in the center of this 3/4 inch blocking, and also the 3/4 inch plywood brace that's on the other side of this will be lined up. So it works out perfect. What I need to do first, though, is to go ahead and mark this center hole, because this has a square nut welded onto it, and the leg leveler or the wheel, the threads will thread into this nut. Now, I've seen some people mount them like this with the nut on the outside and just drill a hole so that the leg leveler will go through. But what I like to do is, because I'm putting wheels on here, I like to screw the wheels tight against the plate. So I drill a hole big enough in the center here for this square nut to go into, so that it'll fit flush, and the nut will be on the inside. So I marked that, and that's what we got planned. And to drill the hole, I'm going to try to get by with this 3/4 inch wood drill bit, or spade bit, whatever you want to call it. It's not quite wide enough for the corners, but the corners are right on the edge right there, and I think I can make it. The other bit is 1 inch, which is a little big, and I don't want to really put a 1-inch hole in there, so I'm going to go ahead and use these. All right. All right, let's see if that works. Almost. It's just that little lip right there is what's got it. So let me see if I can just make the outside a little bit bigger here. Just sort of twisting the bit on an angle. Not going to take much. Close. Okay, that's going to do it. All right. Next, I'm going to change the drill bit. And I've selected a drill bit that's going to drill a hole that's big enough for the shank of this to go in fairly easy, but it's going to leave enough meat so that these threads will be able to dig into the wood. If you drill a hole too small, then it can actually split the wood. Drill it too big and you can strip the threads out. So you need to get the proper size. So I'm going to start this one right here. And the problem is my table is on wheels, so it's wanting to roll away from me here. Okay. Now I got to go get a wrench to tighten this down. Okay. Well, this is a 1/2 inch socket fits it. So let's go ahead and put the first one in. Okay, that's good and tight. Now I'll go ahead and drill my other holes. Try to get it centered here. Okay. Now all we got to do is put the other 3 in. Like I say, these seem to work out real nice. I used them on my red Baron on the step portion. I think I still used the bolts on the main cabinet, but when I did my the wheels on my Sega Multi cabinet, which is in an Asteroids cabinet, I went ahead and just used the lag bolts, and it goes a whole lot faster and it holds just as good. They tighten right up. And if for any reason they ever did strip out, you could always take them out and put a bolt in there. So, but you should never have a problem with them. Okay, that's all it is to it. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut right here, and I'll go ahead and I'll put the other 3 on, and then we'll come back and then we'll probably do a little preview of what we're going to do next with the Bondoing. All right, well, I'm all finished, and as you can see, I now have wheels. Yay! That's all I wanted to do to start with. I wanted wheels on the cabinet so I could roll it around. So anyway, I haven't put the wheels on the bottom yet, but the leg leveler plates are on there. So last thing I'm going to do when I stand the cabinet back up, it's a lot easier. I'm going to have to try to fix those wheels so they're not going to roll on me, because I don't want to slip and bust my rear end again. It's been almost right at 2 weeks now, and my rear end still hurts from where I fell when I was laying this thing down. So that's no fun. Anyway, I'm going to probably end this video right here. It's probably long enough. I tried to shorten the videos up as much as I can. If that means a longer series, that's just what it means. So next time, before I stand the cabinet back up, I need to fix the corners down here, and like right here, I'm gonna have to do some Bondo work right here, and of course the T-molding needs to be changed. So I'm gonna need to address this. I don't know what the heck happened here, but I need to Bondo it and fix it. And this corner over here, well, this piece right here is busted on this side of the T-molding, and if you come around to the outside, well, it's completely gone right here. So we're going to have to address that. So the T-molding is definitely going to come off, and since the T-molding has to come off, I have brand new T-molding I can put back on it. So while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and try to fix up all these places, at least on the bottom here. And if I see any elsewhere on the cabinet, we'll probably have to address that too. The main thing is down here near the bottom. And as you can see, it's pretty blown out right here too. kind of on both sides. So, but we still got the original piece of wood here. So I may be able to clean all these little loose pieces out, put some glue in here, and do our trick with the wood blocks and glue it back together. And whatever, after we sand it down, whatever cracks and crevices we have left, we can Bondo up, I guess. But if that doesn't look like it'll do it, then I don't know, we may have to cut the corner off and go another route. But we'll assess that in the next video. Also have a few little places on the front kick panel near the bottom, as in one of the other videos when we got started I pointed out. So we got still a little bit of work to do, but we're getting there slowly but surely. So like I say, that's going to end this video. Look forward to the next one. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe, tell your friends, and I'm trying to build the channel up and make it a little more entertaining if that's possible. But it's mainly just to show how I do things, and I don't always do things the right way, but I usually get things done, and maybe I can come up with some ideas that you, the audience, can come away with and might be able to even improve upon my techniques. And if you do, let me know. If you know an easier way of what I'm doing, just write in the comments. I'm open to all suggestions all the time, and who knows, next time that might be the way I do it. So till video number 5, we'll see you, and we'll be back.